Did you know that some ants have been farming their own food for over 50 million years? That means ants figured out agriculture way before humans did. Like, way before. We think we are so smart with our tractors and our grocery stores, but ants were out here growing crops before dinosaurs even went extinct. Let that sink in for a second. Today we are going to talk about one of the most jaw-dropping things happening right underneath your feet. Leafcutter ants build underground farms, tend to crops, fight off diseases, and even use natural chemicals to keep their gardens healthy. And the whole reason they do it is more surprising than you think. So let us start from the beginning. Deep in the forests of Central and South America, there are ants called leafcutter ants. You might have seen pictures of them. They are the ones carrying giant pieces of leaves above their heads like little green umbrellas. It looks adorable. But here is the twist. They are not eating those leaves. Not even a little bit. The leaves are not food. The leaves are fertilizer. The ants are carrying those leaves back to their underground nest to feed their garden. And what is growing in that garden? Fungus. A very specific kind of fungus that the ants have been cultivating and caring for across millions of generations. This fungus is the only thing the colony eats. It is their entire food supply. Without the fungus, every single ant in the colony dies. So they protect it like their lives depend on it. Because they do. Now here is where it gets really interesting. This relationship between the ants and the fungus is so old and so tight that neither one can survive without the other anymore. The fungus does not grow anywhere else in the wild. You will not find it living freely out in the forest. It only exists inside ant nests. The ants basically domesticated a fungus the same way humans domesticated wheat or corn. Over millions of years, the fungus changed to grow better inside the nest, and the ants changed to take better care of it. They evolved together. Scientists call this a mutualistic relationship, which is just a fancy way of saying they both need each other to live. But farming is hard work. And underground farming comes with a very serious problem. Mold. Specifically, a nasty parasitic mold called Escovopsis. This stuff is basically the ant farm's worst nightmare. It grows fast, it spreads fast, and if the ants do not deal with it quickly, it will wipe out the entire fungus garden. No garden means no food. No food means the colony collapses. An entire city of millions of ants, gone, because of mold. So how do the ants fight back? This is the part that honestly sounds like something from a science fiction movie. The ants carry a special bacteria on their bodies. Not just any bacteria. A very specific type called pseudocardia. And this bacteria produces natural antibiotics. The ants basically wear medicine on their skin. They spread this antibiotic bacteria around the garden to kill the bad mold and keep their crops healthy. They figured out antibiotics before humans did too. We only discovered antibiotics in 1928. Ants have been using them for tens of millions of years. Scientists are actually studying these ant antibiotics right now because they are different from the antibiotics we use in medicine. And here is why that matters. A lot of the bacteria that make humans sick are getting resistant to our current antibiotics. They are evolving to survive our medicines. But the bacteria that the ants fight off have been evolving too, for millions of years, in an arms race with the ant antibiotics. Some researchers believe the chemicals these ants produce could lead to completely new medicines that could save human lives. All because someone decided to study ant gardens. Now let us talk about the size of these farms. Because this part is wild. A single leafcutter ant colony can have up to 8 million ants in it. The underground nest can be as deep as 8 meters, which is about as tall as a 2-story building, just going straight down. There can be thousands of separate garden chambers inside the nest, each one carefully maintained at the right temperature and humidity for the fungus to grow. The whole thing works like a city with different neighborhoods, workers, and jobs. And speaking of jobs, the ants have a full labor system for running the farm. The biggest ants are called soldiers. They protect the colony from outside threats. The medium-sized ants are the ones you see carrying the leaves. They are the harvesters and the transporters. But then there is a smaller group called minims. And their job is incredible. They ride on top of the leaves while the bigger ants carry them home. Just sitting up there like little hitchhikers. But they are not being lazy. They are working security. Their job is to watch for a specific fly that tries to land on the leaf-carrying ants and lay eggs on them. If a fly lands on a carrying ant, a larva can hatch and burrow into the ant and kill it. The little minim ants act like bodyguards, chasing flies away while the bigger ants keep their feet focused on carrying the leaf. Teamwork on a level that is honestly embarrassing for most human workplaces. Once the leaf pieces make it back to the nest, more workers chew them into a pulpy paste and add it to the garden for the fungus to feed on. Then the gardener ants tend to the fungus, removing any bad growth, spreading the healthy growth around, and keeping everything clean. It is not that different from what a farmer does, except these farmers are the size of a peppercorn and have been doing this since before humans existed as a species. Here is another fact that will blow your mind. When a new queen ant leaves to start a fresh colony, she does not go empty-handed. Or empty-mouthed, technically. She carries a small piece of fungus from her original garden inside a special pouch in her mouth. She brings the fungus with her to seed her brand new farm. It is like taking a cutting from a plant to grow a new one. The queen is basically the founder and the head farmer of every new colony. Without her bringing that fungus, the new colony has no food and no future. The fungus gets passed down through ant generations the same way humans pass down family recipes. Except this recipe is 50 million years old. And the gardens themselves are kept incredibly clean. Ants remove dead fungus, carry out their own waste to specific trash chambers deep in the nest, and constantly groom each other to prevent disease from spreading. Some ant colonies even have waste management tunnels that lead far away from the garden so nothing contaminates the crop. They built sewage systems, underground farms, natural antibiotics, sewage systems. Honestly, at what point do ants just take over the planet? Here is one last surprising detail before we wrap up. Not all fungus farming ants use the same type of fungus. Scientists have found that different ant species across different parts of South America have each domesticated their own strain of fungus. It is like how different human cultures developed different staple foods. One group figured out rice. Another figured out corn. The ants did the same thing with fungus, independently, in different places, at different times. That level of parallel thinking, across multiple species, completely independently, is something researchers are still trying to fully understand. What we do know is this. Leafcutter ants are not just carrying leaves because they like the exercise. They are running a full-scale agricultural operation that took 50 million years to perfect. They developed farming, pest control, antibiotics, waste management, and division of labor all without a single spreadsheet. And they are doing it right now, today, in forests and gardens across the Americas, completely invisible to most of us. The next time you see an ant walking across the ground, just remember, that tiny creature might be part of one of the most ancient and sophisticated food systems on Earth. Now here is the question I want you to answer in the comments. If ants discovered farming 50 million years before us and antibiotics way before we did, what other things do you think animals figured out before humans? Drop your best answer below. I cannot wait to read them.